Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us here today for episode 3 of our career road mapping, which is a Tokyo special. So yeah, Claire, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Claire, the development manager here at Liftoff, and I'm very excited to be back in our studio, still 2 meters apart from Natalie
Almost.
over there, but it's good to be back after some quarantine time.
Yeah, so we have some exciting news, as Claire was saying, about how the festival's going and what's going on this week. So we're going to share that with you now. We have 4 filmmakers who are taking part in the Tokyo Festival, waiting on Google Hangouts on a different slide. So we won't take too long until we get them on screen and the whole purpose of today's video. So Claire, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, so Tokyo Liftoff Film Festival kicked off exclusively on Vimeo On Demand this week, starting with 2 programmes, our headliners shorts and our headliner feature narratives. So those are running until Sunday. They've already had fantastic engagement. We've had 50 votes roll in so far across those 2 programmes and an amazing amount of playthroughs, viewers coming in from every corner of the globe, so that is super exciting to see.
And we've had some really nice comments from the people that have been involved in the festival. So we will be sharing some really nice comments with the filmmakers also taking part. Should we talk about the prizes?
Let's talk about the prizes. It's exciting.
Yes, so we have 2 Season Award nominations up for grabs. So the Season Awards is the red carpet event that takes place at Pinewood Studios every year once the festivals have concluded globally. And 2 nominations are up for grabs out of the 15 categories. Films are awarded from Best Animation through to Best Short Film, Best Feature Film, Best Actor, Acting Ensemble, and everything in between. Art direction is a really, really wonderful event. And this year, depending on what's happening, it looks like we're going to be doing it online, but that does not mean the nominations aren't worthy of the prizes, which is a wonderful... Actually, you can probably see it there, the Liftoff Season Awards trophy.
In all its glory.
Yes. So there'll be 2 films nominated for that, and we'll also be awarding a winner from each category a screening at the Tokyo Liftoff Film Festival 2021, when everything, fingers crossed, is back to normal. We'll also be throwing in a few special mentions.
Definitely. So that's very exciting. Let's just also take a look at this. So this is our network members. This is our place where we sort of bring together all our different members, latest news. This is our Facebook group. So all of our basic, intermediate and professional members, please do join this group on Facebook to stay in touch with all the exciting news and collaboration discussions.
Yeah, we have lots of filmmakers within this group asking us questions, asking for advice, and also sharing their work. So if you are looking to do so, join the group.
Okay, but I think that's everything. So without further ado, as they say,
Dun, dun, dun.
let's move on to why we're all here and say hello to our 4 filmmakers who are joining us today. So hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
These are our 4 filmmakers, all of who are screening in different programmes this month as official selections for our Tokyo Liftoff Film Festival. So if one at a time you could just introduce yourselves, if we sort of go from Melissa to Jerry to Jin Young to Geeta. So Melissa, introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi. Is my audio good?
All good.
Good?
Sounds good.
Okay. First of all, I just want to thank you all so much for having me be a part of this. I'm very excited. And so my name is Melissa Gregory Rue, and I write, produce, and direct dramas and documentary films. And my film, Esperanza Stern, short narrative, is in the Tokyo Liftoff Festival beginning June 15th and runs through the 21st.
Great. You're in our Trailblazers short programme.
Yes, thank you.
We're very excited for that.
So, should we move on to Jerry?
Hi, I'm Jerry Valduit from Zagreb, Croatia. I'm a writer, director, and producer. My basic profession is I'm a music teacher and musician, but I've been involved in film for several years now, and I'd made one feature film that is in a program, I think Trendsetters narrative, which is going from June 6th, if I'm correct. Not sure. Probably.
So you're going to be in our Trendsetters feature narratives, which starts on the 15th of June, actually. So that's running the same week as our Trailblazers shorts.
Okay, thanks.
So that music explains why we could hear a lot of different musical instruments playing in the background when we were testing earlier.
My neighbors are fixing the fence, so I'll mute my mic from now on, so it won't hear extra noise. You know.
Typical timing.
Yeah, always the way, isn't it? Okay, to move on to Jingun.
Sure. Good morning, everybody from Toronto. I say good morning because I'm coming from Toronto, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me on. My name is Jinung, and I have a small video production company here in the city, and I'm very new to the industry itself. And we do mostly corporate videos, but along some of my projects, decided to get into doing short documentaries. And I've produced 3 short documentaries thus far, and my third one, which I also directed, happens to be part of the Tokyo Liftoff Festival, and it is under the headliner shorts category. So I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for having me on once again.
No, that's wonderful. And your film will be running all the way until the 7th of June, so it's taking part in this week's festival program.
That's right, yes.
Wonderful. And then Gita, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. For me, it's good morning because I'm in Arizona. But yes, wonderful to be here. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here amongst my peers who I'm excited to see their films and see, what's being produced all over the world. It's wonderful to have a different perspective and to be able to look at other people's work as well. I have, I believe, 5 films in the festival, shorts, and they are mostly about the Second World War, but they are not documentaries. They are short narratives about how people's lives were impacted. They touch on the Holocaust and the latest one's called The Corner Room. I think it's in the Trendsetters, and it's about the invasion of Poland and what happened to 2 older sisters who are hiding in an attic. And that was kind of my homage to Anne Frank, the sad story of, had she lived 3 more months, she would have been liberated. And so that's a very sad fact of, when and where they were found. But my film has a little bit of a twist. So, and then there's Ava I think you told me in the Trailblazers short, that's about interviewing Ava Braun, brought back from the dead to account for her deeds. Hitler's wife, of course, at the last minute. And then I think the date is a Nazi hunting Cinderella in Buenos Aires, 1952. And the reason is a lot of ex-Nazis escaped, and so she's hunting them at the Opera House.
Great.
And then there's a story about Ilyushin. He's a Russian miner in the Soviet Union, and he's dragged onto a game show against his will. So I was just trying to think, there was another one. So the films are historic, really. They're not really contemporary. It's just telling stories of the past.
Well, they sound brilliant. I thoroughly look forward to watching them. Also, is that a British accent I can hear?
Yes, it is. I'm a transplant.
When did you make the move?
Yes, I was transplanted here 20-something years ago. So.
And you held on to the accent strong, so that's good.
Yes, it doesn't go away.
Okay, cool. So if I could start with the first question for all of you. If we do the same kind of routine, we start with Melissa and then move on to Jerry and so forth. Briefly define to you guys what success means and what success is within the industry for you.
I think for me, success is making work that is in line with my mission as a filmmaker and that I feel comes from my heart and connecting it with an audience.
Can we ask what your mission is? It's interesting. We use that term a lot at Liftoff, especially on our production accelerator, where we sort of try and sort of train through from conception of a project to completion. What do you consider to be your mission?
Yeah, see, Ben, I'm doing my homework.
Good, he'll be happy. Oh, God.
I'm a little behind, but I am doing my homework. And it's been really great to organize my thoughts, taking the production accelerator class through the Liftoff network. I should explain that. And I've been recommending it to a lot of friends lately because I think that, like me, there are a lot of people I know who kind of make films for several years and then say, where is this going? You know, why am I doing this? And so it's great to have those conversations with people now. I would say my mission is to promote compassion in the world. And that's a big umbrella. So there are lots of kind of subcategories under that. But I think that that is so important right now. Obviously, vital in the United States and elsewhere in the world. So
could you remind us what genre you go down? What is it that you create? Is it short narratives or documentaries?
I make dramas and documentaries, and I write and direct my own work, and I am co-producing with another director an educational web series. So all of it falls under that kind of social justice and promoting compassion in the world.
Amazing. So to bring it back to your film, Esperanza Stern, which is screening with us, how does that fit it under that umbrella? Could you tell everybody a little bit about the synopsis, a little bit about what that film's all about?
Yeah, Esperanza Stern is about a 12-year-old. It's about a 12-year-old immigrant farm worker.
Is someone's phone ringing?
Yeah, somebody's phone.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to quieten it.
If you could turn it off or put it on mute, that'd be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's all right. So it's about a 12-year-old immigrant farm worker who is being harassed at work and in the fields and also at school, and how she uses her imagination to confront her enemy. And I shouldn't say enemy, that's a terrible, how she uses her imagination to confront this very unevolved person.
Sure.
And it might be about other things. We'll see what the audience thinks.
Exciting. Okay, great.
Okay, moving on to Jerry. Same question to you. What defines success for you, and what is it you're trying to achieve within the industry?
Well,
I'm sorry.
phone again. I think success would be kind of making a work that finds some audience in your country, in the world, worldwide, and being able to continue with your work and being creative for a longer period of time. I think that is a kind of a success, to being able to stay in business.
Yeah.
Because if you make one feature and you spend tons of money on it, and then you're broke afterwards and you don't have other sources of income, then I think it's not a very prosperous thing. I'm inclined to do, since I have a big family, I should say, I have to I work on several jobs, music-wise, music teaching, and music playing. So the film work is not primary for me, but it is primary in a creative sense, so to speak, somewhere along the music, but also in a film I can express more of the things that I want to express than with only with music. So that would be kind of definition of success. I mean, of course, there is also success in a financial sense, that you get a nice return over investment, or you get some profits of your film. But we all know that in the world of independent cinema, I think only 2% of people make some money. I'll see Gita is laughing. So I think we all understand that. So I'm happy just being able to produce some work. I have one feature film now. I'm preparing one short narrative, maybe one short documentary for this year. But I'm already trying to find budget to make a new feature next year. It will be probably some kind of road movie with, of course, musicians in a van going somewhere and played
Sounds
some
epic.
gig far away. So
Bringing
something
those
along
two
that.
passions together.
And Claire, saying just about passions and bringing it back to finances, you have to be in this game for your passion. There is no point thinking, okay, I'm going to make my first feature film and I'm going to make 2 million on return from that film, because that is very rare, especially as you mentioned
Of course,
at the independent level. So it's nice to hear that you're focusing on putting your passions into your projects.
Well, that certainly motivates me because if there is no passion in work, then what's the point in doing all this? You know, we all know it's hard work. From
Exactly.
writing to pre-production, production, post-production, in all stages, and not festivals and marketing, and already all this. So.
Amazing. Well, Jinung, if we could ask you, what would success look like for you in this industry? At what point do you sort of think, I've made it?
Well, to me, I think success is basically getting paid to party. And I would have to say that what I'm doing now is the closest I've come to actually, getting paid to do what I love doing.
Amazing.
So, and it's not to say that I'm making lots of money, and it's not all about money, but it's not work. You're out there, you're doing stuff, you're meeting people, and you're just following your passion. And there's, all of us being storytellers, we're surrounded by stories, good, bad, sad, happy, whatever. And in the process of getting these stories out there, you're meeting people, you're learning new things, and it's just one big party. And if you can, make some money and support your family and have a great life doing that, then that's success to me.
Yeah, here. I 100% agree with that. Having something to jump out of bed for and getting paid for it, even if it's not millions and millions, just getting paid for doing what you love, that's success to me as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we certainly like to have a bit of a laugh and a party at Lifter.
Yeah, and then if I can continue with the mission, I guess really my mission is to tell happy, positive stories of today to inspire future generations of tomorrow.
Focusing on positives, exactly. We need that in a world that we're living in right now.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And this is not a knock against any other storytellers, but I just find that far too often at least in the world of, in the documentary world, a lot of it is on exposés, trying to, uncover the dark side, the negative side, the harmful aspects. And I get it; they're all really necessary and they're vital. But at the same time, I think far too often we overlook all the good things that are happening in our society today.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, and Gita.
Yes. So interesting what Jinung said, because I actually fall into the pessimistic category. Without giving too much away, my stories don't end happily. And that's probably a direct response to all the gooey, sugary stuff that's put out in America, where everything has happy endings. And I was raised in Europe, and you slash your wrist at the end of a film. You know what I'm saying? Because it's depressing. So, not to knock the industry here, because the independent movement is thriving and vibrant, and may not be cohesive, but it's cohesive in other ways because people are probing, especially if you're making documentaries. But a lot of the commercial stuff that's put out is, I don't think really resonates with people. It's like fast food, but in cinematic form. Mm-hmm. You forget about it 3 minutes later. And my point about making not necessarily happy endings always is for it to be thought-provoking. I want people to go away thinking, why did that happen? We mustn't let that happen. Or, to inspire or to provoke questions rather than leave people satiated. And so success for me is for the films to be thought-provoking, and success for me is, I think, the audience to have gained something from it, even if it means that they questioned it. And I don't really have a mission. My mission is to be able to continue making films and hopefully start making short films and have the finances to do a feature. Success for me is to be able to make my living from film. I think that is a privilege for a filmmaker, because I have a second job, which is why the phone was going off. And so and I love making films. So I don't care if I get into debt making films that I want to make, because I think that's the price I pay for my expression.
Amazing.
So talking about films that have left an impact on you, and a thought-provoking film, what was the last independent film that made you think that way?
Independent film. Somebody sent me a clip of a film that I believe was made in Southeast Asia. Or they were speaking Arabic, but it was just beautiful, and I cried at the end of it. It was maybe 4 minutes long, if that. And it was a little boy whose flip-flops break, and he's at a train station. And a wealthier young fellow, same age, comes along with his dad, and you just see him polishing the shoes while they're waiting for the train, and he's polishing the shoes. And then he's very proud of his shiny shoes. And they get on the train, and there's tons of people getting on the train, and the little boy loses one of the shoes, the one with the nice shoes. And the kind of beggar boy is running, trying to give him the shoe, and he doesn't make it. So he tries to throw the shoe, so that the refined wardrobe guy tries to catch his shoe. And then when all else fails, the boy with the shiny shoes picks up his other shoe and throws it at the beggar boy so he can have a pair of shoes.
Oh, that's a nice story.
He can't have his. And I just thought that was so beautiful to be able to convey that without any words, just so human.
So let's throw the question out to the others here as well. What was the last independent film that you watched which absolutely took your breath away, or left you thinking, wow, I want to make something like that?
You're passing to me?
Sure, why not? Go for it.
I think we're waiting for Jerry.
Okay.
I'm thinking, I've seen several movies that were pretty good, but Gita said about, and Melissa said something about the dramas, but I'm always most affected by comedies, and most of the films which I'd like to do have to have a connection with the comedy. They can have some serious part, like dramatic part, like dramedy, comedy drama, but I like the comedies most, actually, because in today's world it's something has to make you laugh, and like sincere laugh. But I just remember, can't say it was the best movie independent I saw, but it was a very interesting Japanese horror movie, One Cut of the Dead.
That's rather
I
apt
saw it on the
for,
movie.
for our
Right?
Tokyo Liftoff edition of this career session.
And and it was very interesting. There was the idea that some Japanese TV house wanted to make a horror short movie in one cut, like 30 minutes, just
Oh, wow.
one cut, like 1917, but not so long, but one cut for 30 minutes long. And it starts and then it finishes in the 30th minute, and you think it's the end of the movie, but actually the film lasts for 70 minutes, and then the fun starts, but I won't tell you
Do you remember the name of this
spoil
film?
it for you. But it was a very, very great movie, and it made me laugh, and it's about the filmmakers and their stories, and it essentially starts as a horror genre, but it's lots of comedy elements in it. So it's one example just.
Do you remember the name of the film?
One Cut of the Dead.
One Cut of the Dead. I'm just going to write that
One
down because
Cut
that
of the
sounds
Dead.
pretty cool.
And the fun fact with that movie about the prophet, I remember Jinon was talking about that. Interesting. It was a student project, which costed $25,000, but it made in the theatrical release and other releases around the world $250 million.
Wow.
So the incredible return over investment was amazing for independent movie. So it was a total hit, more than Terminator for James Cameron. We reached 80 to 1 ratio of the profit.
Wow.
Cameron had a big success with Terminator in the 80s, I think.
That's
But this Japanese horror, took it even to the other scale.
Well, they do say that horror genre sells well. It was
Yeah.
like the number one selling thing
horror
for
genre,
years.
I liked it. I was always a fan of John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper, and so I like these filmmakers, for example. But yes, horror is an interesting genre, and also as comedy, as I said before. And so I think Jinung probably thought of something, of some movie.
No,
So-
I was enjoying listening to your story there, Jerry. That's great.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Yeah.
story.
I definitely have to check it out.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's very. You'll enjoy it. I'm sure. I'm sure you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, for me, full disclosure, I'm not even though I make videos and, I have made 3 short documentaries, I'm not a real movie / TV watcher. So I'm not really up to date on all the stuff that's out there. But I guess to answer your question, the one movie that has really impacted on my thinking and how I live my life is this short story that I saw where the protagonist is an octogenarian, and he has experienced discrimination all through his life. And he was part of the Japanese Canadians who were interned during the Second World War, and has overcome a number of obstacles to a point where he he strives to make this world a better, happier, more loving place. And how he does this is through the playing of his harmonica. So he carries his harmonica everywhere he goes, and he plays his harmonica for everybody, anywhere, anytime. And the message that I got from the protagonist was that it's the importance of forgiving, and how it's such a wasted energy to hang on to these bad feelings or bad thoughts or anger or whatnot, and just to learn to forgive and move on with life and to make the best of it. And the second point was that how every day he wakes up and he makes a point of seeing good things in people.
I love
What was that
So-
film called?
It's called Me and My Harmonica.
Me and My Harmonica. Again, I'm just going to write
Yes.
that down.
Well, again, I talk about that movie because that was the first movie that I actually produced. and we entered it into Tokyo Lift Off 3 years ago, and it was not accepted. Take that.
Third next twist.
Sneaky.
Just getting in and cheeky little promotion there. So, swiftly move. No, I'm joking.
There was no ill intention whatsoever behind that. None whatsoever. I just, it was a story that I really enjoyed making, and was really proud to be a part of it. And it has aged well, I think, like wine. And now when I show it to people, there's a greater acceptance for such a storyline.
Amazing.
Yeah, a lot better received now than it was, like, say, 3 years ago when it was first made.
Okay, well, Melissa, could you tell us a film that has, ideally a recent indie film that's inspired you? Or just a great film that you want to tell us all about?
The one that comes to mind is not necessarily indie, and it's kind of an obvious one, but I really loved it, and that's Parasite.
Thought you were going to say that.
Yeah.
And you started saying that.
I love to be surprised when I'm watching a film or a series, and that film obviously takes the cake on surprises. Yeah. It also has such important resonance with what's happening in not just the US, but in lots of countries. And I think it's just almost prophetic that it won the Oscar last year. So I would say that it's funny because the other things that come to mind, I realized are both set in Arkansas. And I think the reason I'm drawn to these stories is because I'm writing my first series right now, and it's going to be set in part, it will be set in Kentucky. And I pull a lot from my background growing up here. Well, Arkansas has very similar kind of culture to parts of Kentucky. So one is actually a series I'm watching because I'm writing series. I'm watching tons of series, and it's a series on Netflix that's called Ozark. The writing is phenomenal, and talk about surprises. You just constantly the first 2 seasons were my favorite. And then, like most series, they have a little bit harder time after that second season to keep things fresh. But they just did such a great job, and the acting is amazing, and the character development just blows you away. So I've learned a lot, I think, by watching that and studying it. And then the other one is actually a film by some friends of mine from Portland, Oregon, and it's a documentary called The Gospel of Arica, and it's set in a small town in Arkansas where a gay community is living side by side with and as part of a very not a Christian community, not really super fundamentalist, but the film is such a wonderfully new way of talking about our culture in the U.S. and showing, that the gay community can coexist and be integrated with, religious communities, and they can live and thrive together, and not necessarily that they're just always opposites. And it's about more than that. There's also a passion play production that is a huge, if you imagine like a Disney World for Jesus, that in this town, they actually produce a passion play where they use hydraulics and they have Christ, going up and coming down. And wow. The imagery it's fantastic. I've been watching these guys' career for several years since I met them, and I actually got to program them in a short series that I did at a theater in Portland, and I just love everything they make. But this one, it just blew me away. I had chills, and that happens very seldom, probably for you guys too.
Yeah, high praise indeed.
Yeah. So watch Gospel of Eureka.
Gospel of Arica. Got it.
The Gospel of yeah.
Okay. So, going back to your kind of what success means to you, how far away from your own ideas are you willing to go to achieve your success?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Do you want me to
Yeah,
answer?
exactly. What kind of compromises are you willing to make? Which is especially interesting because all of you have spoken about quite specific ideas of the kind of filmmaking you want to make, which is great. But does there become that point where you're like, okay, well, I'm willing to compromise on this to get here? So yeah, I think that's a great question, Nat. How far are you guys willing to stray, so to speak? Melissa, should we start with you? Start at the top again.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I think what I realized is that I just need to ask myself, is it in line with what I feel like my mission is? And like I said, I have a big umbrella, so it's pretty easy to find projects that connect, with what I feel my mission is. But what I've learned is I think in order to make progress, you have to stay focused and not get distracted and go off and do something that you're going to later go, yeah, my heart wasn't really in that.
Sure.
And because, and you don't make your best, I believe you don't make your best work if you do that. And I have done it in the past. And the thing is though, I mean, you learn from every single film, right? Every film you learn new things and have these like moments of, aha, now I know how to do this, or, I won't make this mistake next time. So I think that if you do veer off, it's not necessarily like, oh, that was a waste of my time. It's always useful in some way. But I think at this point in my career, I just need to stay focused.
Okay, great. So same question to you, Jerry.
Well, I have to say maybe that if since I had production under my control for this feature, but if I had been given the money to direct some feature that's produced by some other people, some other man or woman, I would try to keep the idea that stays in the film. I have, you always have to adapt to certain problems that you find along the way. I don't know. I would try to do my best to keep the essence of the film until the end of the production. And I will go back to Orson Welles. Who you surely know that he had the problem that studios would cut his pictures.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't recognize them. Lots of examples of his works. And he so he tried to do it with longer shots. So the editors who would have a problem with messing with his picture, So he tried to keep his idea in that way, So I don't know. If I come to a situation where I have to find some compromises, I would probably try to push production to the end, so I get my job done, and I don't know, and just keep the basic idea along to the end of the film, That just as far as I'm concerned, that would be the main idea. I don't know.
So
I
keeping
try
it
to be
as,
practical,
yeah, well, it's so true what you were saying. How many times has a film been shot and then it goes to a test audience and comes out a completely different film? So I guess that's...
there was a situation. I think the Stanley Kubrick had a situation with Odyssey 2001.
Yeah.
That they had a preview in some theater, and when he watched it in the audience's reaction, I think he cut 30 minutes of the Odyssey out. So so film is essentially a work in progress until I don't know. Some people see it and give their opinion on it, and you see how they react. I mean, nobody, even Steven Spielberg, doesn't know what will be the reaction. I remember that when he filmed the Jaws, he screened it in front of 600 people. That was one big cinema, and he was in the last row and watching the reactions of the public, and he was, very scared how the people will react to this film with this big shark. And he was very pleased when reactions were great, since it's a great movie. And but nobody knows until some people see and say, well, really, this is a really good movie. Or somebody will say to you, I know that Melissa has spoken about the Parasite movie. And but I've seen at the IMDb that some people gave it, like 10, and some people gave it 1, the lowest rate.
Yeah, I mean, the nature of art is subjective.
It was a great surprise to me, that movie, because I didn't know nothing about Korean cinema. The first Korean film that I have seen, so it was a great surprise for me. And some people just didn't like it, and some people really thought that it was a masterpiece, and I think it really is. And it didn't get so many Oscars for nothing. So
I 100% agree. I actually watched Parasite on the plane, on this tiny screen, and the person next to me was kept watching over what I was looking at, and he said, "What are you watching?" And I said, "Parasite." So he watched it as well. And then afterwards, we both discussed the film, and I was flying back from Australia, and we spoke about this film, I don't know, for the majority of the flight. We were both like, what have we just seen? So I was blown away by Parasite.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I'm of, Korean ancestry, and I have to say Parasite was my first Korean movie, and I quite enjoyed it. So I'm gonna have to watch some more Korean stuff.
The Raid's another Korean film that sticks out in mind. Have you seen that? Oh, you haven't seen that one. It's basically an hour and a half of fighting. And it's quite dramatic and quite out there. But yes. So, Jing'un, same question to you then. How far would you go to get your project made, essentially?
Well, I'm not sure if this answers the question exactly, but being an owner of a small production studio, we rely on revenue generated from doing corporate videos. And that involves doing testimony videos as well as tourism videos.
Great.
So I do a lot of networking, and the question that I often get asked is, what kind of videos do you make? And jokingly, it started as a joke, but as I thought about it, it was absolutely exactly how I felt, and the answer was, I do all videos except for wedding and porn. and
that's where your line is.
Yeah, that's where I draw the line, exactly. And the most often response was, well, then how do you make any money? And I said, you're absolutely right. It's very hard. But anyway, regardless of whether it's hard to make money or not, I choose to draw the line from doing weddings and porn. So it's pretty simple.
Yeah, pretty clear line in the sand there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So Jita, same question goes to you.
Oh, right. I was thinking about this. I agree with Jinang. I won't do porn. And so, but I came in contact with a beautiful cinematographer. He's not beautiful, his work is. And so he contacted me, and we kind of, had a verbal meeting because of the COVID-19 thing. And we both want to work together. And he's based in Arizona, and he does mostly cowboy movies, and that's not my genre. I make films about the Holocaust and historic films and stuff, and so he wanted me to direct one of the films, and in return, unpaid, because that's how we have to do stuff here, and in return, he would be the director of photography on one of my films, which would be set in World War II. And so I said, that's not really my thing. I don't really do cowboys. I know I'm in Arizona, but that's not my thing. And so he said, a film's a film. And I realized that if I wanted him to be my DP, because his work is phenomenal, for my Holocaust movie, and which is obviously the music is atmospheric, the cinematography has to be atmospheric, the set, the acting, all that are components that come together. I realized that I better get my thinking cap on and readjust to directing a cowboy movie if I want to get my Holocaust film made. And so that's kind of it's a sort of compromise. It's not a difficult compromise, but my mindset is more historic, and I think cowboy movies are a lot about what's right, what's ethical, the family unit, kind of old-fashioned values, so to speak. So, I decided I should be able to do that. I should be versatile.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of what we're talking about, really. Like, how far away from your set out path are you willing to go to ultimately get where you want to end up? I think that's a perfect example.
Yeah. And it's not doing anything unethical or that against, that I would feel uncomfortable about. I'm just not in that genre.
Yeah, no, that's kind of more what we had in mind, I think, asking that question than will you end up filming porn. but all valid answers nonetheless.
So I'm just going to take a pause here. Do we have any questions in the chat room at all?
We do actually. We've got a question coming in from Leisha Sonam. Leisha Sonam asks, what are your key setbacks and learnings that influenced or triggered you to change your career roadmap, or how you decide your creative choices? Probably a learning failure setback that triggered or disrupted your thought process and how you craft your roadmap.
Did you get that? Were you able to hear that at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
In that case, would you like to answer?
No.
No, Melissa's saying. So it was any particular, correct me if I'm paraphrasing too much.
Key setbacks and learnings that influenced your career.
Oh, I see.
So,
so should we start with Jerry?
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't quite hear well the question,
Were there any obstacles or setbacks that you've experienced over your last years of your career that have sort of affected your future roadmap or changed the way you thought to get to where you are now?
Setbacks in the last year or so.
yeah.
And let's take COVID out the equation.
No, I'm not talking about the COVID. No, I don't want to. Well, there have been some problems, I would say I had some. I don't know. You always can experience some problems with actors, maybe. Somebody has some opinion that doesn't align with your opinion. It could be something like that, or it could be a technical problem. I would say just one anecdote from our set, since my film Balkan Trinity is a story about three politicians. They have a 3-day meeting, and they encounter their own problems and political problems, and there's some other underlying story. But since these are politicians from Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Serbia, and we had, these flags on the pillars, okay, that we put aside and some boxes, and at the end of shooting. But had a problem that somebody stole one of the flags.
Oh.
Since I'm shooting Croatia, and you know some of our history, it was Serbian flag, since we were in war with Serbia.
Yeah.
And I had to make an order to manufacture Serbian flag very fast.
Oh.
And it was a very funny problem, but that firm that did these flags for us did a great job, and they sent it in 2 days, so we could continue next Sunday. Should we shoot it on Sundays and sometimes in the midweek, because of I work in 2 schools and lots of my actors and crew had their jobs, day jobs, so we shoot mainly on Sundays, you know. So but it was an interesting problem. And I didn't want to really delay the setting for this shoot, because you know people have their daily things to do. So you know you have lots of people to coordinate for these dates that you have for shooting. So I didn't want to change, because I had only one day in a week to shoot. So actually we shoot it in 19 or 20 days, but it was prolonged during the 6 months, you know, since we shoot only on Sundays. It's a funny detail, you know, usually people shoot movies in a line for several days, months, weeks, I don't know, year. But we shoot mainly on Sundays, so it was a specific problem, and it was in a place that is actually a school where I work. It was one room that has a very shabby look, since it doesn't have a great production value. But we used it because I didn't have any other place to shoot at that time, you know, so I had to work with it.
Oh no, we always talk about using locations.
Yes.
And that are available to you at your disposal. It's a great way, especially when you're working on a low budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's low budget.
Yeah.
Cool.
Stuff.
Okay, great.
So Jingen, is there any problems that you've had to overcome on your shoots?
Not really, but I think to answer the asked question, not so much problems, but in terms of the one thing to be aware of, if for those aspiring storytellers out there, and you are in the story, you want to make a documentary. My advice would be, do not make a documentary about the person who is footing the bill to make the project.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God.
Because that person will be more concerned about how he or she looks on screen than the story itself.
Yeah.
So, I guess, it's always a positive experience. But I experienced that, and I realized quickly, note to self, do not do any more of these kind of projects where you're telling somebody's story who's actually funding the project.
Perfect.
Wise advice.
Yeah, it was nice advice. Any
Very
other
advice.
Gita or Melissa?
Yeah, I could jump in now that I understand the question. So I would also not say that it was a problem, but just that I had some experiences where I didn't feel like things worked out. And I've tried, and one is writing. And so I really wanted that to work with a couple of people. Now, I'm not saying that it can't work, because we know there are wonderful writing teams that they do work. But for me, I just haven't had that click yet. And I thought it would be fun, but it ended up being frustrating towards the end of the process, because one was a short that I worked on for probably about 6 months with another woman in my writing group who's an awesome writer, but we're doing very different things. And that goes back to what I was saying about not going completely outside of the realm of what I feel I want to be making. And then the other was co-directing, which is very challenging. I don't know if you guys have tried to do that, but I really don't understand how anybody makes that work. So I learned a lot from it, but it was also extremely frustrating. And I won't be doing that again in the near future. So I'm not saying I'll never try it again, but if it fits with a project and I feel like that person and I have absolutely the same vision, that's what I learned. Never ever co-direct with somebody when you're not sure that you have the same vision for the story.
That was what I was going to ask you. Was it the vision that was the problem, that you both weren't on the same page?
Exactly. Yes. So
it's funny because we're sort of we're at the treatment stage, but we're sort of co-writing a short together, but we're not co-directing, so we're following that advice.
Don't do it.
But Claire and I often say the same thing at the same time, so we'll be absolutely fine. Okay, and then any pearls of wisdom from you, Geeta?
Yes. So I learned quite early on actually not to co-author or co-direct, because what I found was happening is I had a very strong vision, and it, like you said, Melissa, it messes up if you are going in one direction and the other person wants to go in another direction. I also found that as a female director, because I write, produce, and direct my own films, that it was extraordinary. People wouldn't let me get on with it. If a project came out looking good, they would want to take over the project. And I found it disrespectful, first of all, and also just absolutely extraordinary. I know that if I had been a man, this would not have happened. But they just couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that a female could produce something like this. And they would try and take over. And I've had to really fight off and remind people that I put this together and I wanted to see it to completion without having interference. Because if you have a strong sense of what you want to create visually and in directing and stuff like that, it's I can't have somebody else stepping in and saying, do that now or something like that. So the films that I create have a look to them and a feel to them, because they're mostly historic, but I'm getting away from that. But my experience has been, and this is ongoing, I don't think in my lifetime it will change, that that female directors will be allowed to just carry on and finish the stuff. This has been my experience. I always have had a DP stepping in and saying, cut, and that's not their call.
Wow.
No.
And I have to step in and explain. Yeah, all the time. It could also be because I'm in Arizona and it's very macho, and but they're wonderful people. But it's this aspect of they can't get their heads around the fact that a woman is in charge and she's directing. It's extraordinary. Yeah, and I have to explain to them, listen, when she's acting and she's emoting or she's feeling, it's not your place to say cut, because I might want it to go on.
Of course.
I'll decide when they cut.
Yeah.
Geeta, maybe I should come down and run interference and take care. You need an
collaboration.
Director who
I do. I mean, honestly, they're well-meaning people, but creatively they become very excited, and then they start calling the shots on set, and I'm like, no, you can't do that.
So actually, that's a good point. In 10 episodes from now, we're going to get you all back on so we can see what's been going on, how you've been getting on with your projects, and if you two have started a collaboration, that would be amazing. If not reinforcements, at least. So if I could, we'll definitely get you back on here in about 10 episodes' time. So episode 13.
Yeah. That will be
All
great.
right.
It'll be great
Sounds
to
wonderful.
hear where you are.
Yeah. But in the meantime, if you have any further questions, feel free to drop us an email and keep in touch. It'd be great to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, sir.
But thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, do you continue any questions in that Facebook group that we mentioned earlier as well?
Yes. Cool. Wonderful.
Thank you for the
Thank you so much.
opportunity.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
joining
much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
It's lovely to
Great
meet you
to
guys.
You too.
Great,
Lovely to
great
meet you
talking
too.
to you
Let's
guys all.
connect.
All right.
Thank
Great.
you.
Yes, let's connect. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we
Bye.
just have some final things to talk about here. So what's happening in the future?
1 second.
We're just clicking through. I think, Claire, you just need to go on the tab on the other side.
Okay, no, but I'm just trying to end the call first. There we go.
There we go. Okay, cool. You just need to drop down.
I am useless.
Oh,
there
and
we
they
go.
said Claire should do the technical today because I wasn't very good the other day. Oh well. So join us next week for episode 4, where we will be continuing doing the Tokyo special, and we'll be focusing heavily on documentary filmmakers. Documentary filmmakers is what we'll be focusing on.
Yes.
So join us for that next week, the same time. And also on next Friday, you'll be hosting a workshop, won't you?
Yeah, so this Friday, James is going to be doing a workshop on how to generate great ideas for genre-based content. So join us at 12 o'clock for that. And then the following week, in line with our documentary week, I'll be doing how to find the best interviewees for documentary.
Yeah. Really looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we know how to use the controls.
We
Anyway.
will. We'll try our best.
Thank you for joining us. See you soon.
Thank you so much.